member for North Island Powell River.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm here today and very pleased to be speaking to Bill C-228, which addresses pensions in the case of bankruptcy or insolvency. And for the NDP, this addresses something that has been a long-term concern for us. We know that pensioners, they are really made fragile when they lose a significant part of their pension. And we know that workers that work so hard for a company, spend their life dedicated, loyal, doing that work, when they lose their pension on the other side, or when they know they're going to lose their pension, it's absolutely devastating. And whenever I think of this, I always think of Pat Horgan, who was a former member of my constituency. He passed away several years ago, but I remember him sharing his story of his many years of dedication to Safeway, where he actually had to travel quite a distance to work there to support his family, spent many, many years of his life working really hard. And of course, his amazing pension, which really provided solid foundation for his family. Had a young son that he retired early to care for. He was making $2,700 a month. And when everything fell apart, his pension went from $2,700 down to $72 a month. This happens to Canadians in our country, and that is why these types of legislations are so important. And this is why we're holding on the government to support this, because they need to understand that when they put Canadians in that situation, when they tell companies that everybody is above the workers, that it really disenfranchises those folks and means that as they retire, they don't have that stability. So Pat, in his retirement, had to go back to work. He had to go back to work to support his family. And I remember him saying to me that he was grateful that he had the health and well-being to work, even though as he got older and older, it got harder and harder for him. I think that this is why it's so important that we're here today, because pensions are deferred wages. This is how we plan for our future and for our retirement. And when you get older, you have multiple challenges that you will face because you are aging. And if you do not have the pension that you work so hard for, and everybody else walks away with the money that they need, while you're left in a fragile position where you have a lot of vulnerability, it's simply not fair. It's an injustice, it's unfair, and it finally needs to be dealt with. Worker pensions should not be at the bottom of the list. And I am so hopeful that this bill will get to where it needs to get, because it will take the steps that are much needed towards fixing this. And I have to be honest, Madam Speaker, I was a little worried in the very beginning if I would support this bill or not. There were some concerns that were very important that I had and that my caucus had, and they were brought forward to the member from Sarnia-Lambton, and I thank her for that. And happily, after some commitments and discussions and agreed upon changes, I want to thank that member for that important work, because it's going to allow this caucus to vote in favor. And because of this work, yesterday, together with the NDP member from Elmwood-Transcona, the bloc member from Magatugan, and of course the member from Sarnia-Lambton, all three opposition parties were able to announce their collaboration on this bill. And Madam Speaker, I have to take this opportunity, of course, to thank my dear friend, Mr. Scott Duvall, that was the former member of Parliament for Hamilton Mountain, who worked diligently, both in the 42nd and 43rd Parliament, to get this work done. He introduced his own bill in the 42nd Parliament, and I know that he's worked so hard with the bloc to get the bill through, and we did not see it get where it needed to get in the other place because of an election that was called without any reason. So this is why I'm so happy to have this discussion, because Scott Duvall committed his life. He had lived through this. He came from a union background. He had seen this happen, had worked and supported workers. He was absolutely dedicated. So I really respect the work that he continues to do and hope that this gets through the finish line. I know that he will be really happy to see that. So currently we know that our laws just leave workers behind. And I believe that this is extremely important, not only to amend the bankruptcy laws to assure that unfunded liabilities for pension funds are honored over both secured and unsecured creditors, but also to assure that the companies can no longer stop payment of retirement benefits during the bankruptcy proceedings. And this is another factor that's really important to understand. These long processes have such a profound impact in the short term and the long term for workers. And we know that when there is a significant loss within a community of a big organization or business, it really has a profound impact, especially on smaller rural and remote communities like those that I represent. And this is important because we know, and I'm seeing this right now in a little bit of a different circumstance in the Mill and Powell River, where folks are waiting to move on, but they're not getting any termination or severance pay. They're waiting and waiting for that. And we know that that's what happens as well right now in terms of bankruptcy. People are waiting because all of the secured creditors get to go first. And there is a pattern for businesses in trouble to leave workers hanging and unable to bridge the gap and move forward in a meaningful way. So our federal laws really need to be improved to support workers. And that's the foundation of this for me. And I hope that it is for all of us as we vote on this. We have to make sure that in our country, workers are recognized. And all too often we have systems in place that really mean that workers stay poor while the people at the very top walk away with a lot of resources. And when people work hard for a company, when they wake up every day, they show their dedication and loyalty by showing up for work and helping that business grow their own resources, their own wealth. We have to make sure that when it gets tough, we don't leave those people behind. And I know for me, as a senior spokesperson for the NDP, I've spoken to many seniors who have had this experience and have significant challenges financially when they retire, and it can become very significant if they lose their pensions. So I have to say, though, one of the concerns that I do have for this bill is it doesn't really include protection for healthcare benefits during the insolvency process. This is concerning to me. I've talked to a significant amount of seniors in my riding who really struggle with healthcare costs. I was just talking to one not too long ago who was talking about the medication for diabetes and how hard it is for them to make ends meet now because they don't have any extra resources. We also know that as people age, dental care becomes more and more important and a huge deterrent to health. I've talked to seniors who struggle to chew any food, who are looking at blending food in their blenders to make sure that they get the healthy nutrients that they need. So one senior told me that she lost her pension because of a bankruptcy, and now she's in a position where she has significant dental work that needs to be done. She's trying to save up to it, and she keeps getting a reoccurring infection in her gums, and they're trying to make that work without her losing any more of her teeth. And so I just can't imagine being in this circumstance. So this is also an important part. We need to make sure that those things are put in place. And I know for the NDP, this is exactly why we are fighting so hard to get dental care around this country for low-income people, especially vulnerable people with health issues, persons living with disabilities, seniors, children. We need to make sure that people have an opportunity. And often when you lose your dental health, you lose so many other opportunities in your life. So, Madam Speaker, in closing, I really do look forward to having this bill go to committee for all of us to work together to amend and make some changes so that we can serve the workers across this country who build our communities, who pay their taxes, and do all that they can. We want to make sure that when they retire, they are protected. So hopefully we will get there, and I want to thank the member who brought forward this bill again for her hard work and her diligence and her ability to work across party lines. I think that's a real testament to some of the work that we do here in this place. Thank you, Madam Speaker.